Aging silent hunters grow deadlier. American subs pack cutting-edge tech, but Washington struggles to outbuild its surging rival.
China has demanded that the United States effectively restrain its forces and cease all provocative actions in the South China Sea.
The first shots weren't blanks. China's Navy opened fire on U.S. and allied warships in the South China Sea. Within seconds, destroyers lit up their missile shields, fighter jets roared off carriers, and submarines went on full alert. This wasn't just another radio warning, it was live rounds in one of the world's busiest trade corridors.
Challenging their legal basis. In a first-of-its-kind report, in fact, Beijing has hit out at the U.S.
The question now, was this the spark that could ignite a wider war? Stay with me as we break down the moves made in those first crucial minutes of contact. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The first flash on the horizon was sharp, blinding. For a breath it seemed like another warning shot, the kind sailors had seen before. But then the sound chased the light, a deep concussion rolling across the waves, and the truth was locked in. This was not scripted theater. It was a strike launched in anger, and every watchstander on deck knew it. Chinese transmissions had been repeating for hours, the same phrases drilled over and over, demanding course changes, shouting warnings, forcing tension into the open. Usually those words clashed with static and then faded into sea noise. This time, silence followed the call, broken only by the crack of live ammunition. The radio net went cold as every Allied vessel switched from verbal sparring to combat protocol. Orders that had been theory minutes before now carried the weight of steel. Crewmen had rehearsed this scenario in endless drills. Every sailor could trace the checklist by muscle memory, the alarms, the helmet straps, the seals of fire-resistant suits. But theory and reality diverge the moment hostile ordnance slices through the sky. Training prepares reaction but not fear, and fear was inescapable in those seconds when no one knew if the opening salvo was an isolated blast or the start of a campaign.
Aging silent hunters grow deadlier. American subs pack cutting-edge tech, but Washington struggles to outbuild its surging rival.
American destroyers locked into response almost instantly. Defensive missile batteries shifted from standby to active, launching protective screens meant to blind and mislead enemy warheads. Radars bloomed across their sectors, tracing arcs that overlapped and meshed into one cooperative shield. Deck guns swiveled as tracking computers identified probable threats, every barrel aligning with sky and sea vectors. The entire formation bristled, as though wrapped in a living cocoon of firepower. From the flight decks of carriers, the change was immediate. Aircraft that had sat fueled for routine patrol lifted in violent haste, engines screaming into the darkness. Pilots who had spent weeks cycling training flights now flew with direct authorization to lock the airspace.
That we have continued access alongside all of our allies and partners to international airspace and international waters.
No warning passes, no exercises. Real weapons armed, real adversaries identified, the game board stripped of pretense. The lanes beneath them were not just contested waters, they were arteries of global trade, carrying the lifeblood of entire economies, and now threatened with disruption. Below the waves, an unseen second theater prepared itself. Nuclear-powered submarines shifted quietly through depths, altering their angles to positions of deterrent strength. Torpedo bays opened. Communication signals pinged absolute silence so no trace would betray them. Their crew members knew no one would ever see them, yet their role was decisive. If the surface vessels fell under sustained attack, these subs served as the ultimate last line, coiled like hidden predators in black water. Allied ships, Japan's sleek destroyers, Australia's enduring frigates, reacted without hesitation. Maneuver orders came sharp, and they aligned hull to hull with American counterparts. Together they formed a consolidated line, a barrier of armor and willpower. That decision was made in seconds. No diplomatic pause, no request for permission. Just instinct, anchored in years of joint training and mutual defense agreements. A steel wall, carried not by a single flag but by a network of partners who had come prepared to prove solidarity.
Has accused America of practically inventing several legal concepts like international waters, saying it does not exist.
Later, those studying the incident would describe Beijing's conduct as a deliberate sequence. First, harassment by water cannons, pressure without blood. Then, the step into lethal fire. The logic was simple but ruthless: test how far adversaries bend before breaking. Push the line with non-lethal means, then cross with live rounds and watch if cohesion collapses. It was escalation meant to probe resolve, a calculated gamble played on an open ocean. Yet in those first terrifying minutes, the gamble met a different outcome. Instead of splintering, the alliance fused tighter. Crews followed joint procedures without falter, commanders exchanged terse confirmations that left no uncertainty. What could have fractured into isolated firefights became, instead, one united defense posture. It was not superior weapons alone blocking further attacks but the binding principle that no partner would face the fire alone.
Tensions are rising in one of the most hotly contested regions on the planet, the South China Sea. From militarized artificial islands to fighter jets and
Unity became the shield, larger than any specific missile or gun deck. Every action in that opening chain, missiles intercepted, formations locked, jets screaming overhead, was more than tactic. It was a demonstration broadcast not just to enemies but to observers across the world. These moves were proof of credibility. Proof that alliances signed on paper are reinforced by sailors bracing against recoil, by pilots blacking out under high G turns, by silent submariners holding their breath under crushing pressure.
China has demanded that the United States effectively restrain its forces and cease all provocative actions in the South China Sea.
In the contest of strength, credibility is the currency. And in that moment, it was spent with conviction. But beyond the weapons and maneuvers, the confrontation was a test of endurance at the level of identity. It spoke not only to tactical defense but to sovereignty, dignity, and the simple truth that nations in partnership had to validate their promises under fire. In seas crisscrossed with merchant traffic, the result of that first contact was clear. No bending. No fracture. One formation, locked tight against the next wave of uncertainty. The opening shots tore away the illusion of a standoff. What had been posturing across contested waters turned into live fire in a corridor that moves the engines of global trade. When the first weapons left their barrels, the rules of engagement shifted, and everyone knew it. Modern conflict doesn't turn on one missile or one ship. It turns on time. The speed at which commanders link arms with their allies in those chaotic first minutes decides whether escalation is contained or unravels. Subscribe and join a community that seeks to understand the realities of modern conflict.